Hey everyone, before we get started, take a second to like and subscribe to the show.
It's the best way to help us share great information with more people. Thank you.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to CareLab. Today is a very special episode because it is the end of an era. We are making some changes, and Emilia is no longer going to be a part of the CareLab podcast, and we are going to shift its focus a little bit. And so today we wanted to reflect a little bit about our last, 2 years together doing this podcast and talk a little bit about where it's going to move towards and what's coming up next. So yeah, here we go.
Yeah, let's do it. So yeah, it's been quite a ride. We've done over 100 episodes together,
Which is crazy.
which is crazy and a pretty huge accomplishment in the podcasting world, actually. I think we've grown faster than 90% of other podcasts out there, something like that. Yeah, we've done a lot of work that I'm really proud of here on CareLab, but it's time for me to go move on and focus on some other things. Spend as much time with my kids as I can because they're growing up. We were just talking about way faster than I want them to grow up. They're not going to be with me, it feels like, but not as long as I want them to be with me, which is forever, because I'm a mother that would smother her children forever if they would let her. But yeah, it's time for me to move on. And I think, Brandy, you're gonna carry on the podcast in a new direction, and I'm really, really excited for that. I'm definitely gonna continue to be a listener, especially as an occupational therapist of CareLab going forward, and always here to help and collaborate if you need. But should we do some fun reflection today, since this is my last episode?
Yeah, let's do that.
Okay.
Okay, so let's start with I think we should start with what we did at over 100 episodes. And not every episode gets as much listenership as others. But I think we care a lot about the content on all the episodes, and
of course,
having the conversations with the experts and or the family caregivers and the speakers, I think is enlightening to us. So I want to know, what episodes did you think deserved more attention?
Okay.
Sleepers.
So I would say, and to your point, we've done so many episodes. I think I'm really proud of the content in all of our episodes. And we've really worked hard to try to put out, great education and have great guests on and tell important stories. I think episodes that deserve more attention, anything with Lisa Kendall. I think that we had Lisa on 3 times.
I think we did.
She is absolutely one of the wisest, most compassionate people, and also just a fantastic communicator. So anything with Lisa Kendall. I loved our episodes. This is just me, selfishly in particular. I found our episodes with Dr. Lauren Schiller to be so fascinating. He is like a gastroenterologist, and I am endlessly fascinated by the gut. So I thought talking to him was so much fun and just so educational, and it almost made me want to go back to school to become a doctor and a gastroenterologist. And then I realized that I'm probably a little bit, actually. Yeah, but it's I think I'm too old, and I would still have to pass OChem.
Right.
Yeah, and then the other one that I would really, I'm gonna say actually 2 more. Did we do 2 or 3 episodes with Reshma Patel?
I think we did 3.
Patel. I think we did 3. She is a pharmacist. Her information is just everyone should know what she's talking about. It's really, really helpful.
Totally.
And then last one, I would say the episode that we did for Amber Olson about her and her family's story, her daughter's story, her foundation that she started, and really her story is just so incredible and inspirational and moving. I think it deserves all the attention in the world. Okay,
Yeah, I
so
mean,
that's like half of our episodes that I think deserve more
more
attention. Brandy, what
attention.
about you? Yeah.
The answer is all of them. But
Mm-hmm.
I think like for me, where I was just doing this work because we're about to bring on this adaptive toothbrush called Simple Brush into Ask
Uh-huh.
Sammy. And it made me think about Dr. Joy Poscosa. And
Oh,
we had her
yeah.
on a couple of times,
Mm-hmm.
and she talked mostly about elder care and oral care. And, like working in acute care, that was like the one ADL, the one activity of daily living that I tried to make sure I did with every single person because almost
Same.
every person, acute and skilled, in any
Yeah.
facility situation, because they weren't getting the help that they needed. And it also
It.
feels gross. If you wake up and forget to brush your
Yeah.
teeth and you like keep going with your day, you're like, feels gross. What that happened like multiple days in a row. And I just felt like
Yes.
her science behind that and just like talking about that, I think is a thing that we don't care enough about, frankly. And
Yeah.
so I think those episodes are the ones that um, I wish would that deserve more attention because I think more people need to pay attention to that oral hygiene.
Yeah. I couldn't agree more. Do you have any other ones? Or did I say all of the other ones already? Because I just verbal diarrhea my list to everyone.
Um, I think that's a good summary of the ones that I think are super important because the other ones that I like did get a lot of attention. Like when we had Harry on, he was talking about his wife and his brain injury and
Mm-hmm.
how he took that all of those changes that were happening in his life and like turned it into charity and like
Yeah.
raising money for brain research. And so like but that got a lot of views. So, but I thought it was a really important story and like great for him to tell it. So yeah, I think that's good overall.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So, okay, now since we have interviewed a lot of people, were there any guests that you were nervous to interview?
Yeah, I was really nervous to interview Amber Olson. I
Why?
I was so well, first, her story, this is not like a spoiler alert. Her The episode already came out. You can go listen to it anytime. And if you like go learn about Amber, there's a ton. She's a total open book. It's like there's literally a
Yeah.
documentary about her and her family and her daughter's story. So her daughter it has a very rare illness and she passes away. And I was basically terrified that I was not going to be able to hold it together
Hmm.
during the interview. Like just, you know, it, it just hits like it hits so close to home as a mom. It's like your worst fear, right? And I
Hmm.
was just really afraid. I was afraid to watch the documentary because I thought it was gonna be like too sad for me to watch. Which, by the way, it's it's not. You should watch it. Like you can handle it. And like I don't say like you can watch like you should go watch her documentary. You can handle
Yeah.
it. It's not as difficult. I mean, it is difficult, but like you'll be able to manage it. And it's worth seeing. And her cause is a cause that's worth supporting. But I was really nervous to interview her because I thought I was just gonna like be totally unprofessional and lose it. What about you?
Well, I was thinking that I was nervous to interview too, not for the same reason though. For the reason that like I was worried that I might say something that would be perceived as insensitive. I just
Oh,
didn't know how to like deal with like I don't know how I would deal with that, right? And so I'm trying to be sensitive in the way that we one talk about the story and bring those things out, but also just like I don't want to talk about the death of a kid, like and she has been such a professional in the way that she like took her sorrow and grief and turned it into like improving other people's lives and like that takes a real intentional step because I personally would not want to talk about nothing to nobody.
yeah.
And so I was nervous about like saying something that might be perceived as being insensitive in this like prescriptive way that we're talking to people about facts, but
Hmm.
facts also are attached to feeling. But
Hmm.
she made it really easy on us, and it was like it was a really great conversation. I learned a lot.
Yeah.
The other one I would say is I was nervous about interviewing past Governor Schreiber. because that was really early on in our podcast life.
Hmm.
And to have somebody who ran a state for a long time come on our podcast, I was like, oh, I I'm not a journalist. I listen to journalists. I'm not a journalist.
Right.
So, so having a conversation, he's just a person just like anybody else. But
Right.
I don't know, I felt like it had more gravity and weight. And he also made it easy. He's really easygoing.
Oh my gosh. It's so easy to talk to. The best storyteller. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
probably of all of our guests, the best
Yeah.
storyteller we had on by far.
Yeah.
And like, you didn't even get to, if you heard the episode, it's a great episode, but you
We
didn't get
didn't
to
talk
hear
that
all
much.
his stories.
Oh yeah,
Like,
that's true.
like we got to hear stories before and after. He's just like an incredible person, an incredible man. And also that was so surprising. We were very early on, and to have a former governor like reach out to say, can we be on the podcast? I think that was something that was surprising to me actually, was the number of people that we had reach out to ask
Mm-hmm.
if they could be on the podcast, because, like, who are we?
Right. Two
Right?
OTs talking.
Yeah. We're just two OTs talking. So I thought that was always really cool. But I think, yeah, Governor Shriver was absolutely a highlight. That's a good one.
Yeah. Okay, so the whole goal of
Hmm.
starting the podcast was that, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but this is how I perceive this, is
Okay.
that we
Wouldn't
share
it
a
be
lot.
funny if we disagreed at this point?
That would be funny. That would be very funny. I was setting us up for some controversy. Um, I think we both and probably many other clinicians have had the same experience of like having to educate family caregivers around the same subjects and challenges
Hmm.
and have them deal with the same kinds of emotions and also the overwhelm of having all this dumped on them at one moment.
Hmm.
Oftentimes, that's usually where we're getting involved at. It'd be great if OTs were being involved much earlier in the process.
Sure.
But
Yeah.
most of the way the medical system works, if you have an acute something happening, then that's when you would encounter an occupational therapist, and then we're going to do our best job to try to help you get back to life, and that often includes a caregiver. And so, having had that experience so many times, and people feeling so overwhelmed, it would just have been, in my opinion, easier to deal with, especially when you know somebody has like a progressive diagnosis, right? And you're not full-time caregiving now when you find out about it, but you might be later. To just be able to take in that information a little bit at a time, right? And so we
Hmm.
wanted to bring that to the world essentially in a bite-sized format so that, you're learning along the way, and that maybe at some point when you need that information, you can recall it, or at least remember that it was here at CareLab and come back and review it. And
Hmm.
so we have passed a lot of knowledge
A
and
lot.
gotten a lot of experts to come on, a lot of caregivers to come on and talk about their story, which is also a really great way to learn about caregiving from other people. And so I want to know, like, if we can come up with just like 3 takeaways for caregivers if you remember nothing else. Because if you happen to be listening to this and you are fully overwhelmed at this moment, like, what are the couple of things that if they remember it, that'll help them um, be as successful as possible in caring for the person that they're trying to care for.
Hmm. Okay. And there are so many there, especially like throughout the course of CareLab, we've given out so much advice. We've, or information, education. We've tried to bring on lots of people who know more than we do about certain things
Mhm.
too. 3 big takeaways. I would say one of my things that I would want people to take away is to really set priorities. Like,
Mm,
prioritize, because when you are overwhelmed and you have 5,000 things to do, and all of life seems to be like coming in at you like this big tidal wave, and it's crashing over your head and you don't know what to do. I think setting priorities is a really, really great way to start to manage that. And you can think about how you're setting priorities in a couple different ways, but what really matters to you at the end of the day. Like, and this is such a cliche to say, but like, if your life was over tomorrow, what would you have wanted to prioritize getting done today? And that
mhm.
could be making sure that you are spending time with the people that you actually care about. Could be making sure that you took a moment to yourself. Could be making sure that you had all of your paperwork in order. Like, it could be, there's no right or wrong for how you're prioritizing things, but really think about, of the 5,000 things that you've got to do, there's probably actually only a really small handful that are actually going to matter,
Mm-hmm.
and that certainly are going to matter like right now. So setting priorities, I think that that's a huge takeaway. What about you?
10 priorities is a great one. I'm good with that being number one. The second thing I would say is if you can just remember that it's really important to maintain your relationship with your person as the relationship that it was. But what I'm saying is that if you're a daughter taking care of a mother, you are a caregiver and that's a role, but you're also a daughter. And if you can, even if you can't do it all the time, but you can carve out time where you do things that you would normally do, whatever kind of accommodation you do to make it happen, because of your role as a daughter and that's your mother, it's so important to prioritize that, I think, because otherwise it becomes a job
Mm-hmm.
and emotions get mixed up because you're doing a job and that person you're caring for is not doing a job, and they still see you as the person the relationship that y'all have, and then they're grieving the loss of that and feeling guilty that it has to be this way. And so to make some intentionality around keeping um, something normal, I think is really important. And that's
Mm-hmm.
different for everybody. I think we had a guest on one time who talked about not wanting to help. It was a son helping a mother, not wanting to help her with a shower. He was completely capable of doing so, but
Mm-hmm.
he um, wanted to maintain that barrier, and
Mm-hmm.
that and that he hired somebody, or somebody else came over that was a woman and did showers, and that was actually kind of a little more work for him than not. And he still did that because he wanted to continue to have that boundary and to feel some sense of normalcy, and I think that's really important.
Yeah, I think that that's really good, because it's so easy to lose yourself in this role of caregiver and lose the importance of the roles that you had before in your relationships. Like, it's a different role being caregiver versus the role you have as a mother or daughter, right? And so
Hmm.
I think that's a really good point. And to try and kind of maintain those relationships as much as you can. Um, okay, another one that I would say, and it's actually really hard to choose because I'm like sitting here going in my head, I'm like, well, that's important, that's important, that's important. Um, but I think an important takeaway is, do not be afraid to ask for help. Or maybe
Hmm.
afraid isn't even what you're feeling. Whatever your emotion is that is stopping you from asking for help. Maybe it's afraid, maybe it's pride, maybe it's shame, maybe it's anger, like whatever it is. There are lots of reasons that people might not ask for help. Set that aside and go ask for help, because especially if you can tell someone what you need. I need you to go to the pharmacy and pick up this medication. I need someone to confirm this doctor's appointment. Like, if you can be specific in the help that you're asking for, most people are more willing to help than you think they are. And if they're not, then there are community resources that are out there, um, that can help you to find the help that you need. So don't, whatever it is that might be standing in the way of asking for help, if you can, try to set that aside and go ask for help. It is help. Getting help does not make you weak. Getting help makes you stronger.
I'm so glad you brought that up as the third one. I think that's a great one to end on, because even if you're not, for all the same reasons you just said, plus maybe you don't have an emotion around it. Maybe it just feels
Hmm.
overwhelming
Yeah.
to organize yourself in thoughts to then dole out appropriate tasks to people, right? And because one thing I'm always recommending is people use this platform called Lots of Helping Hands.
Hmm.
Because if you've ever signed up for a meal train after somebody has a baby or something, and instead of texting back and forth with the person who is supposed to be resting because they just had a baby, you just get on this platform, you sign up for a date that you're going to bring a meal, and then it reminds you to bring the meal, and the person gets to log in when they feel like it and see what's happening. And like it just makes the whole process a lot more seamless. Lots of Helping Hands is a free tool that helps do that for caregiving. And so many times I've even heard it happening, like the primary caregiver is there with the person and somebody's heading out while I'm heading in the door and they're like, just let me know if you need any help. And that's just like so nebulous. And you have to sit and think about like, well, what could she do? What is she willing to do? What would fit her abilities? And now you can
Hmm.
just be like, what do you think? These are all things I could delegate. Picking out the medications, confirming the doctor, whatever. You can just list all these delegations, put them in that thing, send it out to everybody, and they just sign up for the stuff that they can handle, and like including like sit with mom for 2 hours on Wednesdays so I can get my hair done or I get grocery shopping or whatever. And just doing that, taking the investment and doing that just one time could bring you so much more help. And then people are willing because then they're like, oh, I could do that. That's what she needs
Hmm.
easy.
Yeah.
And so yes, then you can be strong, like you said, like because you're doing the thing that you need to do, but all the things are actually getting done still.
Hmm. Okay. Those are three pretty good ones, I
I
think.
think so.
And you
Yeah.
know what? If you need more, we've got more for you because there are over 100 episodes that came before this one where we talk about all kinds of things. We talk about driver rehabilitation assessment. We have episodes, like you said, about oral care and dentistry. We have tons of episodes about fall prevention, aging in place, home modifications. The whole goal of creating CareLab was to put good information and education out into the world to let people do with what they wanted or needed to do with it, but really just try to be a voice that was informative and positive and helpful. And I think that we've done that. And I'm so excited for this next chapter that you're going to take CareLab on. Do you want to talk about that a little bit before we wrap up here?
Yeah, that would be great. So I don't think we have been shied off on the podcast of talking about how occupational therapy is a profession of unique qualities that mixes like medical knowledge with real everyday life and finding a way to make those things work together. And
I
that
don't know. I think we could have been a little bit more forthcoming about that. I'm just kidding. Obviously, we just like
we're always
beat that
talking about how
horse.
great
We,
occupational therapy is.
yeah. Uh-huh.
Um, and we're going to keep talking about that. So there is actually a very wide breadth of ways that occupational therapists work in niche industries and make such a big difference in people's lives. And the challenge is that you just don't often know that. And so you don't know to go looking for them for solving XYZ problem, right? And that you're capable of doing that without having a doctor like send you there. And so what I want to put more into, we put a whole canon of caregiving information into the world. And so I want to continue that mission, which I think is still the same, to help support caregivers with the information that they need, but with slightly different focus on like understanding like all the different ways that occupational therapists are serving in across the country. There's a even in just my own little network, there's a whole canon of OTs who have created products to solve particular problems. OTs who have started practices that do pelvic health and perimenopause care and but just like all these things that we talk about in the world having challenges with, but like finding them and knowing that they exist is more of the problem. And in talking to OTs, I think um, people with challenges, family caregivers, occupational therapists themselves, the medical community overall, and the social service community will get to understand like the uniqueness of people's individual problems and the breadth of solutions that there are to solve for them. So while we'll be talking to OTs and that'll be our primary guest, the goal is to explain and share more about problem solving methods, And so, because that's really what all of this is about, right? Like, how can I find answers to the problems that I have, right? And
Mm-hmm.
so we're hoping to put out that information so that you can solve a problem you have now, or have the knowledge that, oh, you should go see an OT to go do X, Y, or Z thing because they can help you solve that problem.
Okay, well, it's gonna be fantastic. I have no doubt. I like as I said, I will continue to be a avid listener of CareLab. Can't wait to hear the new episodes as they come out. Um, Thanks so much for doing this podcast with me for the last couple of years, Brandy.
I'm so glad that we got to do this. And also, it's just really cool that we were connected in a way that we were just like, we should just do a podcast. It's not even
Yeah,
like we were like friends for a long time before we decided to do the podcast. We're just aligned on trying to share this kind of information and do it in this medium. And so I'm so grateful that you jumped into this with me. And I can't wait to see what comes next for you.
same. Okay, well, dear listener, if you made it to the end of this episode, then please, even though I will be leaving, please still take a moment to like, share, subscribe. Go check out some of those episodes that we were talking about from before. I promise there's good stuff in there. Leave a comment, leave a review. That's the best way for CareLab to continue to reach more people with the education and information that we worked so hard to put out and that Brandy's going to continue to work so hard to put out. So until next time, I guess I won't, but Dr. Brandy Archie will see you right back here next time on CareLab. Bye, everyone.
Bye, everybody.